Welcome to Data in Chief, brought to you by Action. Join us as we explore compelling data stories, share analytic breakthroughs, and hear from leaders leveraging data to make a difference. Welcome to Data in Chief. Today's guest is Ethan Aaron, CEO of Portable. Ethan, can you go ahead and tell us a little bit about Portable?
Definitely. Thank you so much for having me on the show today. So Portable is an ELT tool. We actually don't do the transformation part, so we're really just a EL tool. And we focus on pulling data from applications and putting it into data warehouses, specifically all the applications that no one else wants to integrate with. So we don't have the big systems. We don't have Salesforce or Postgres or MySQL as data sources. Instead, we have 850 plus niche business applications. These can be construction management tools, churn tools, CRM systems, subscription billing tools. And in scenarios where someone needs to connect data to their data warehouse but can't find a connector, that's where we come in. We either have it or we're happy to try and build these things. And we can build really, really fast as soon as the same day.
That's incredible. That's incredible. So you mentioned ELT. Usually in database world, we hear ETL. What's the difference there? And can you give a little bit of an explanation of that, please?
It depends. So I use ELT, data replication, and ETL interchangeably.
Okay.
And depending on where I'm using it, I will purposefully pick one or the other. So ETL is the most common terminology that's used more generally. And the whole idea was back before cloud data warehouses, you had to extract data from a system, transform it. And the reason why you had to transform it is you had to like slim it down to make sure it could fit inside of your analytics environment, and then load it. And then you could start building your dashboards or running your workflows. With the advent of cloud data warehouses, you didn't need to do that whole process of take all the data, like aggregate it, package it up before you load it. So instead, you just take all the data, put it into your data warehouse or data lake, and then you transform it. You figure out how you want to aggregate it, create insights, et cetera. So typically, you can kind of think about Portable as extract and load. We don't do any transformation. Yep. Most of our customers then do the transformation, or all of our customers do the transformation of that data after the fact. In the market today, they're typically used pretty interchangeably. The reason why we actually use the word ETL on our public facing website is because more people search for the word ETL on the internet.
Sure.
And when it comes to search traffic, it's a better term for us to use. So that's a weird nit in terms of why we went with ETL on our website, whereas I use ELT in a lot of more technical conversations with people.
Yeah, that makes sense. So 850 data sources. Can you describe some of the things that you can connect to?
Let me think about this week alone. So last week, great example. I've known someone in the data world for a while, and they just changed jobs and they joined a construction management company. Very large company, but it's not a typical SaaS business or venture-backed startup. So he showed up and it's like, great, now he needs to connect to his data sources. One of them is a fleet management system called Samsara. And then all of their core data actually lives in an ERP system called Viewpoint or Vista, which is a construction management specific ERP system. A typical SaaS company is not integrating with Samsara. We had already built it, so we already had that. He was good to go, could just sign up on our website, connect Samsara to Snowflake, click run, great. He came to us and was like, hey, our core information, like the stuff I would need to build insights on top of, lives in Viewpoint. Can you help? And we were like, yeah, sure. Like, as long as we can get access to the documentation, we'll build it. You can try it, make sure it works. And then if you like it, like that's what you pay us for, to maintain it. So we built this thing. He went live within a day or two once he got credentials. And then over the course of the next day, like probably 2 days, we added 211 API endpoints to Viewpoint. So now him or anyone else can go to our website, connect to Viewpoint, and any data they could want out of Viewpoint, they can go toggle it on or off, and we will handle all of the requests, the authentication, the rate limiting, the error handling, pagination, schematizing the data before it gets loaded into their data warehouse. And it's just out of the box, no code Viewpoint connector. So like those are a couple from last week. Yesterday, I was working on a tool called Fresh Sales. It's like a CRM system from Freshworks. And Someone else, in that case, we were actually ripping out an open source solution. So someone was using the open source connector for fresh sales. Someone changed the open source connector and it broke their workflow, but it's mission critical to this company. So they were
Okay.
like, okay, we need a fresh sales connector, but we can't just have someone break it. Like it needs to work and we need to be able to contact someone if it breaks. So in that case, we were like, awesome, which endpoints do you need? And we're actively ripping out that existing open source framework and making sure that we check every box that customer needs to get their fresh sales data synced consistently into their data warehouse. Again, like neither one of those is Salesforce, but
Right.
like we are on call when these things break. We want to be there so that if you're using fresh sales or viewpoint or churn zero or any of these tools, you can just know that if things go wrong, like we are here to actually help you. That's how we differentiate. It's not like, oh, we have 870 scripts that you can maintain. It's we're actually on call if the stuff breaks.
Yeah, I think one of the coolest parts about it is your free trial experience, right? So you can come in and see the connectors that are available. You can try it. And then when you try it, and even if there's things that aren't available or haven't been connected yet, then you can go ahead and request it. And your team actively works on it, right? You guys actively work on building new connections that might not have been there before.
Yeah. On our side, our goal as a company has always been abstract, like we shouldn't ever have to go to someone and say, yeah, you have to pay us a bunch of money and then we'll consider building that thing. We would rather spend a ton of time internally streamlining our own capabilities to say, if you need something, let us go build it. You shouldn't have to pay for someone to build a connector that doesn't actually meet your needs. And there are scenarios where people come to us and they're like, hey, can you build this? We build it and we're like, oh, actually, like there's a problem once you get to page 200, you can't get useful data out of this, or it has weird issues. And we're like, amazing. You didn't spend a dime. Like for us, maybe we spent a half an hour, maybe we spent an hour to help you figure that out. And you can get back to your job of building insights, managing pipelines, and helping your company create value. And we know that if anyone in the future asks for that connector, that's where it ended, like that, and we can have an answer for the next person that needs that connector. So it's all we do, and that's kind of how we think about the world.
I'll tell you what, from personal experience, I wish that we met years ago because I had a situation where I was the marketing manager of a analytics team. And we came across a situation where we wanted to pull in data from disparate data sources. We wanted to explore our social media sources, right? So we had a social media team that was going out and they'd go into each channel and pull the specific
Yeah,
analytics from there. We'd bring it into a Google spreadsheet and then try to make some congealed analytics analysis so then we can see how we're doing. Um, and I felt like we were really at a fork in the road, right? We had a decision to make. We could either go and tap into these APIs and try to automate that way by hiring a front end developer that can then do it, code it, bring it in, or we can go to one of these bigger platforms that might have some of the solutions already baked. In that scenario, we wind up going with the hiring of somebody,
yeah,
which worked out short term, but we ran into some of the issues of the the API changes,
yeah,
and there's knowledge loss. So if that person leaves and they don't have good documentation, then it's just lost, and it's left to somebody else to kind of pick up the parts from there.
yeah.
So at least in my experience, I mean, I definitely see the value of portable in what you're doing. That's
It's
great.
the other interesting thing about hiring, and I don't, if you're in a heavily regulated industry, it probably makes sense to hire because you can't easily access SaaS software. But the other thing about hiring is if you hire someone or you take internal resources and you allocate them towards building a contentful integration because you want your content information in your data warehouse,
Mhm.
and they spend a week, maybe 2 weeks building out the first pass, let alone all the maintenance, but they spend 2 weeks on it. There is this interesting sunk cost of what happens a month later if you decide you don't want to use Contentful anymore and you want to
Right.
move to Ghost, or you want to move to Squarespace, you want to move to something else. Like it starts creating this internal, like it shouldn't exist, but like it creates this internal sunk cost of like, oh, we shouldn't switch because we spent 2 weeks of a very expensive engineer's time to build this thing. How are we going to migrate? With us, it's like one of our customers, they were evaluating tools. They were evaluating returns tools. So they were looking at Returnly, return logic, loop returns, and a different returns tool. And before they even picked a tool, they came to us and said, can you see which of these you can build an integration to? And we already had Returnly. We built return logic and loop. And we went back and we're like, you can go try them all during your procurement cycle. And that way you can see not only which one is the best returns experience for your e-com team, but also which one you can build dashboards and workflows on top of based on their API and what's available. And the good thing is, like, a month later, if they decided to rip out one and put in a different one, to us, it costs nothing. Like, it's already done. And they
Yeah.
don't have this sunk cost of like, oh, we spent all the time not just procuring the tool, but building all this custom stuff around it. They can throw us away. Like, they can throw out one of our connectors and sign up another one, or just shut us down if they want, if it doesn't make sense anymore. And that's baked into our business model. It's why we exist.
Right. And that, to me, that's a manager's dream, right? Is being able to have this plug and play technology, this plug and play option, where if we want to test things out, it's a lower friction. You might fail, but the stakes are much lower
Yep.
than having this other solution that has a huge sunk cost, right? So yeah, that sounds like again, another area where portable is very strong. That's awesome.
Totally.
So Ethan, I'm very interested too. We had a chance to talk a little bit about your internal analytics, right? So how does portable look at themselves? How do you know what's working? How do you know it's not working, and where to pivot, where to make decisions, and all of that?
Totally. We're a small startup, so we move very quickly. Our strategy can shift. But my background before this, I did kind of two things right before this. One, I was the head of analytics at LiveRamp. So I was the one putting in place our own internal analytics for a 1,000-person company. And then I worked in strategy at LiveRamp. And I think a lot of data teams should probably spend time in strategy as well, because it helps put in perspective what insights, what dashboards actually matter to your business at a given point in time. So I took those experiences and some other stuff that I've done in the past, and now I'm running Portable. And I'm the CEO, but I'm also a lot of our go-to-market function and our head of data, and I use all of our dashboards ourselves. So the way I kind of think about it is, once a quarter, we have team offsites. In January, we're going to Miami as a team. And the whole point is we get together, there's team bonding, but it's also strategy time. It's like, what is the goal for what is the plan for the next quarter? Every company does this, whether it's annually, quarterly, the leadership team or the whole company gets together and says, what are our priorities for X amount of time? So we do this once a quarter. Coming out of that, and those can shift. A couple of quarters ago, it was SEO. It was create a lot of pages, get them indexed by Google, see what that does for traffic, and then optimize our self-service product funnel. Last quarter, it was build lots and lots of connectors, big connectors specifically, and get meetings with prospects. Right now, that's not the priority. Right now, a lot of it is kind of streamlining and also some connector development. And so as those change, we define them at the beginning of the quarter, and then I reevaluate everything when it comes to the dashboards and data I use to run the business. Because last quarter, coming out of our offsite, one of the most important metrics to us was how many connectors are we building by week or by month? Which ones are we building from the list we want? How many meetings are we booking per week or by month? And are they with the target accounts we want to go after? And what's our backlog look like for those? So that was last quarter. This quarter, our goal is not booking meetings. So whatever connector at the time I was using Calendly to track which meetings were being booked. I would send out a Calendly link to prospects. They would sign up. We would ELT that data using Portable into BigQuery. And then I would be able to see on our calendars what prospects were booking what meetings all in one centralized place alongside of the connectors we're building and our backlog. So that was last quarter. This quarter, I don't care. So instead of keeping that around and having compute cycles run and ELT cycles run and dashboards that no one should be looking at, once a quarter, I effectively just go delete everything. Sometimes I hard delete our key KPI dashboard. Like right now, today, before this call, actually, I was effectively more soft migrating to the most up-to-date strategy initiatives. And booked meetings is not one of them. So
Okay.
I shut down our HubSpot connector. I shut down our HubSpot connector and our Calendly connector because I don't care this quarter. I deleted the SQL queries that were being used on top of that data, so I don't have to look at them. They're not running anywhere. They're not loading every time we run a query. And I took the dashboards down because I don't want myself or our team looking at a tab in our dashboard that says meetings booked if that's not important to our company at all right now. So
Okay.
it starts for us as like, what's the company strategy right now? What are the top 5 priorities? For us, it's like one single dashboard with 5 tabs. And it's like those 5 tabs change based on our priorities. And then for each of those, it's what's the top level metric that we care about. So like connectors is a big one for us right now. So we're at 873 connectors right now. And the goal is 1,000 by the end of the year. So like I can see that at the top of our dashboard every single day. I can also see how many signups do we have by month, what are our conversion rates, how much did we book in revenue last month, total revenue, and support issues. So it's like those are the things that matter to us at the highest level. And every
Yeah.
time I open our dashboard, I can see the 5 metrics that matter to me right now. And then I double click into each of those. So it's like, great, connector development, 873 connectors, like that number keeps going up, amazing. But how many of those are being used? Great. Of those that are being used, how many are actively being paid for every day? How many did we build last week versus this week? How many are stable? So like I can double click to really understand that and talk to the person on our team that is driving most of that. Same thing on the conversion rate side. It's like, okay, great. I want to look at conversion rates from signups to free trials. I can see data around how many people by week and by month, how many people signed up. Of those people, how many accepted our legal terms, created the data source, created the destination, moved data, put in their credit card, are actively moving data every day. And I can see how those trend week over week and month over month. So I can see where in the conversion funnel we can optimize. So I kind of
Yeah.
think about it as like top level strategy. What are the 5 parts of the business that matter? If connectors is no, if next quarter we decide the connector count does not matter for us, I will delete the tab, delete all the dashboards, remove all the queries, and get rid of it because I don't want it to be a distraction for me and our team because it's not the goal. So that's how I think about it. It's very much
Okay.
top down, and it should align with our strategy.
And so in my experience, Ethan, that's very counterintuitive to what I see from most analytic professionals, right? So usually, I think we all kind of have this hoarder mentality. Like, I need to have all the data, and I need to keep this history, and I need to know how I'm doing week after week, quarter after quarter, month over month. Um, but yeah, it sounds like by doing this, what I'm hearing is that it enables you to move faster. Um, it enables you to react to what's important, right? So you're a growing company, you want to grow and continue your traction. And by doing this, it enables you to do that. Is that correct?
I would say all of the above, and you don't have to deal with the complexity of data cataloging and which dashboard matters because we only have 5 that matter at any given point in time. The 6th one, if me or someone else like, oh, we need another dashboard, it's like, cool. Which of these other ones are we going to like? Which other tab are we deleting? Because it's not a question of can we write the SQL query? We can. It's like mental bandwidth. So it's like you don't have to deal with the complexity of a billion different things and how do you find what matters. It's very clear. And because you actually delete queries and turn off pipelines, you never end up in the world of having 10,000 DBT models. And not only the compute that comes along with that, but the just absolute chaos of data modeling that matters. And then you also aren't paying for compute and ELT pipelines for stuff that doesn't matter. So it drastically reduces complexity and cost and mental overhead.
Yeah.
And it allows you to refocus everything on only the stuff that really matters. And if you pick the wrong, like, because if you pick the wrong stuff and you write the best queries ever, it's useless. Like you're just spinning cycles. So if I spend a lot more of my time on what is the right priority than on did I write perfect SQL? Because honestly, my SQL is not very, it gets a job done. It's not pretty, but like it gets a job done.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the things I heard from you is being able to share the insights and the progress of the company. And what that does is it helps form a shared reality, right? So, and it's transparent. So you know what's going on, and everyone in the company knows what's going on. They're focused on what's important and getting rid of the slough, right? We're getting rid of some of the work that just didn't move the needle. That's
Totally.
amazing. So it sounds like you're a very numbers driven analytic company, which is great. Can you talk to me about the data culture and how you help drive that within the company?
Um, Data culture is a really interesting question. What is the best way to describe our data culture? I would say a lot of it comes down to what I just described. How do you turn, like when we set goals, I want to know I can measure them because a lot of people use OKRs and goal setting and they're like,
Mhm.
yes, we're really great at OKRs. We set these goals, we set the key results, and then they have no way of tracking the actual progress against those key results. So they're good at goal setting, they're awful at actually measuring anything. So for me, if you set goals that can't be measured, it's almost useless. So it forces us to distill every goal we have into a thing that we can not only put in a dashboard, but that we can either automate or at least manually track in a spreadsheet. Most of it we can automate. And I would say what that then leads to is, to a certain extent, tool selection. So if you think about that, it's the idea of using Calendly to track booked meetings. That was not our first choice. Our first choice was like, okay, great. Can we pull this from Google Calendar so we can just sync in my calendar and be like, great, how many meetings we have? There's a lot of complexity there because you have to figure out which one's just like a podcast and which one's a prospect. With Calendly, I could send out a different Calendly link for different purposes. Um, I also looked at HubSpot. I was like, wow, like HubSpot has data on our target contacts and it's got data on my meetings or could have data on my meetings. But as we were looking at HubSpot, I was thinking about it not just as a CRM system and a meeting tracking tool, but I was like, can I get the data out of HubSpot that I need to also show who I'm meeting with each week and booking meetings with? Unfortunately, with at least my experience with the HubSpot API was I could only get data on booked meetings if I had already defined the prospects inside of HubSpot. So there was a lot of
Mm,
manual head in the workflow to get the data I needed. So I was like, sure, we could do that and introduce a bunch of complexity. Or this Calendly thing, like we can use it to book meetings. It's easy to get the data into our data warehouse, and it's the data we need. And it was easy. So for us, it's like I think about it as strategy, what are the priorities? And I wouldn't underestimate the importance of having an enterprise data model and the
mm.
tools that actually stitch together to track the stuff you care about. So like for us, it's like customers matter, like events matter, like LinkedIn content matters for us, like SEO, like number of pages we have, impressions, clicks, all matter. And understanding the big concepts, agnostic of the tools, allows you then pick tools that fill in those gaps. So that I think about most of it as that. I don't think about it as oh, we use this like, do I care that we use BigQuery versus Snowflake versus a Postgres database versus Microsoft Access? I do not care at all. Like we write SQL queries against a database. So like it's, and same with visualization. Like I love Retool, which is what we use to visualize stuff.
Okay.
I could do the exact same thing in pretty much any BI tool if I wanted to. But so that's kind of how I think about the world. It's like all of those are implementation details as long as you get the other stuff right. If you pick the wrong priorities to build insights against, I don't care how much money you spend on tools. And if they're great, like if you're building the wrong metrics, none of this matters. So that's the culture I try and instill, is just like focus on the right stuff above and beyond all of the rest of the data implications.
I like that. Keep it simple. Focus on the right stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Ethan, I think we're approaching time. Before we end, I want to throw this out there. Are there any questions that I haven't asked that you would like to answer?
I'm trying to think right now. Um, I'm excited right now. I'm excited about there's a lot of there's ups and downs in the market right now. Like right
Okay.
now, one of the biggest downsides is like a lot of teams are being cut back on. I think the upside in that is there are a lot of really great data people either on the market for jobs or starting to become freelancers or standing up data stacks and data teams at new companies. So if you think about what's going on right now, there's a lot of things you can say that are negative, and I at times I'll say negative things on LinkedIn just because it's the reality of the world we're in right now. But I think if you actually look, there's a lot of positive going on right now because of the like phenomenal data talent that is now being dispersed and be made more accessible either through freelancers or consultants or people standing up new data teams that I'm really excited about. I think right now it's people aren't spending a ton of money on data infrastructure, which is probably the right thing to do. But I think a lot of people are laying the groundwork to build in a more pragmatic way than they did 3 years ago. So I'm super bullish on what's going to happen over the next 2 years. I think the next 6 months will still be kind of rough, but data's not going away.
Yeah.
You need it for whether it's AI or whatever you decide to build on top of your company, you need it. But yeah, I think that's one of the things I'm most excited about is kind of this reset and all the cool talent and really, really smart people that are going to be able to help companies create value.
Awesome. Awesome. I appreciate that. So to close, Ethan, how can people get a hold of you?
I would say the easiest way is just follow me on LinkedIn or reach out on LinkedIn. It's Ethan Aaron, CEO of Portable. Yeah, or go to our website and book a demo. That will most likely take you to me. But yeah, those are the easiest. If you want to hear my hot takes on the data world, LinkedIn's probably your best bet.
Awesome. So LinkedIn, portable.io. And yeah, if you want to connect with Ethan, please do. Again, I follow him on LinkedIn. I think he's phenomenal in terms of the subject matter that he speaks about. Ethan, thanks again for being our guest today on Data in Chief, and I hope to talk to you soon.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, take care.
Bye.